Hello and welcome to What's With Healthcare podcast today. We are three nurses who have a combined 90-year history of working and observing healthcare in action. We come together for every podcast and talk about a topic related to the healthcare system from our different perspectives we've had from working and experiencing it. We're here to share this knowledge and our perspectives, and we want to hear from everyone out there who's listening in. We want you to help us to learn more and grow more and talk and share. That's why we're coming to you every week. We acknowledge and pay respects to the lands and the waterways of the traditional Aboriginal families from where we're podcasting from. So those lands are the Yugara, Turrbal and Darumbal peoples, and always was and always will be Aboriginal lands. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the What's With Health podcast again for another week. In keeping with our beautiful Feeling Lighter and Brighter series that we've been going on with, where we had Celeste talk about nutrition and Isabel talk about sleeping, I'm adding to those foundational posts with the idea of movement. And I want to talk to you about, why movement is vital to life, what's so good about it, what's the best movement, strength training, some interesting facts that are coming out from research because I find that fascinating, and then just other fun facts, great facts about movement, but also a tiny snippet to wrap it up. I want to tell you about how some of my clients experiment with movement. So that's exciting stuff I want to talk about today. So I just want to say hello to Isabel and Celeste. Hey guys, how are you this week?
Hey Sue, going well.
Awesome.
Thank you. Very happy.
Now, what do you love about movement? First of all, I want to hear what you guys love about movement first.
So for me, I can go first.
I know you love strength movement.
Absolutely. I love strength movement. For me, it's not just about this external, thing called body. It's also about mental health. For me, exercise and strength training in particular, it's about helping me to regulate emotions, helping me with anxiety, helping me with, sleep problems, and helping me with maintaining healthy weight. So I like what I see in the mirror as well. And also it regulates nutrition, helps me to start the day because I train very early in the morning. So it sets the day for me so I can, start with good choices in terms of food.
Well, there we go, everyone. That's the end of the session. Isabel just wrapped it up for us.
Thank you. That's
lovely. No, that's awesome. And exactly to some of those points Isabel was talking there, I hope I can just spread them out a little bit as we talk today, so that you can learn more about how is that getting our mental health on the go there. So that's what I hopefully will share with you today. But Celeste, before we move on, what do you love about movement?
Yeah, I just love the feeling it gives me. I generally get up and either go for a walk or do yoga or something like that in the morning. And just to have moved, in addition to doing my mindfulness practice, just sets me up for the day. And I feel energized. Often I might feel a bit, I don't really feel like going out the gate, but I think, oh no, just put my shoes on and then I get to the front gate and then I've got permission to walk back. And inevitably, once I get to the front gate, it's like, smell the morning air, hear the birds and the cool, well, at the moment it's cool air, so it can be for much longer in the morning, and get out there. And it does uplift my mood. And where I might have not felt like getting up and going initially, I am by the time I'm home from my walk. But some days I also do Pilates, and I love that for strength, but also for my balance and posture. And and that always makes me feel good too. And there's something about, they talk about taking muscles to failure. And, if it's doing weights, I really feel it and I'm thinking, I'm going to drop something. But when it's Pilates, it's on resistance. And it seems somehow more doable for me to do that. But some days I just don't feel like doing anything in those mornings, just to have a bit of a stretch and move all my joints and flap my arms, do some snow angels on the carpet. Even that is enough on those days when I'm just being kind to myself and looking after myself. At that point in time is enough to get me feeling good and feeling like, yeah, now I'm ready to get into the day. So yeah, it definitely sets me up for the day and helps me sleep better too, I think.
Yeah, and that's fabulous. And that's the whole point of this movement thing, is movement isn't exercise. Movement, it doesn't have to be exercise. It doesn't have to be Pilates. It doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to, it can be whatever you want it to be, but you got to do it. So, and I think that you've both got beautiful methods that are working for you, but you've experimented, you've had a go, you've figured out what works for you, and you know how to listen to yourself. And I think that's the big keys that I work with my clients with every day, is just about what makes you feel good. And so that's going to be different for everyone, because we're all different, unique people. So because the reason we have to move, so this is the history, right? We have to move because, this human body that we have was born for movement. Okay. So historically, we have always moved. So when we were Neanderthal men, we had to move to survive. Okay. So movement was vital, because if we didn't move, we had no home, no food, no safety. Okay. It's because a dinosaur ate us. Okay. So, or, we couldn't have food, and so we'd starve and die. So we have to move. And so, and movement is so important because it circulates our blood and oxygen. And, so we get blood flowing through our heart, we get oxygenated blood into our whole body, which feeds us, and our vascular system was designed to feed the cells of our body. And so, we need it. And, that movement of blood and oxygen provides nutrients to all our cells. So, it goes back to, we need to have quality nutrients in our body, as Celeste talked about a couple of weeks ago, so that, we have that healthy transfer as well. And basically, we need to move so that we get optimum function of this human being form that we all sit with. Okay, so we need to move. It's just how we were created. And so that's what I like. What's so good about movement to me is that if we move, we can maintain optimal health. Now, look, I'm no athlete, right? I'm not out there, doing masters games or anything like that, right? But I'm really proud of my health and fitness. So I know if I want to do a 5K park run every Saturday morning, I can. And I know that it makes me feel good to do that. And I know that's my thing, right? So, and it helps me maintain my body so that I can be the best it can be every day. So I can have the impact with the people who surround my life. So that's what I love about it. It supports my positive mental health and emotional well-being. So what Isabel was talking about before, it sets her, when she exercises first thing in the morning, it sets the scene for her day. So she has good nutrition. So she, she's doing everything she wants to do today. And Celeste said, it just keeps her moving and sets her day up as well. So it makes us feel lighter and brighter when we do it. So therefore, the reverse is true. If we don't do it, how do you reckon people feel who don't get to move enough in a day?
I know, and I don't move. I really feel a bit ordinary, a bit blur, in a word.
Exactly. Blur is a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's just that I just can't be bothered.
Yeah, and it can feed on to the next day and the next day, and then a week's gone past and you're wondering why you're feeling like a blob.
And it can become a trap too. I've seen people who end up in a bit trapped by lack of movement, because lack of movement means that I don't get out there and I don't feel good. And so I don't engage in my community. I isolate myself. I don't want to talk to anyone. Can you, it can really unravel people. Movement is such a beautiful thing because, when we think about what is the best movement, well, the answer to that is movement. That's the best movement. So there is, I mean, Isabel is gonna say, I think that the best movement is to lift weights. That's what I think she's going to say. Yes. And I think Celeste is probably just going to say working on the farm.
Yeah, it is pretty rewarding. But I reckon actually dancing is right up there, because you can't dance and not smile. And if you're smiling, all those little happy endorphins are going around, and
exactly.
It's like
it doesn't matter what it is it? It's movement is the best movement. So, and I think that's what we get caught up today. Society's so busy and we get bombarded with so much messaging. We get told you got to run, you got to, you got to do weights, you got to go to the gym, you've got to do all these things. Why? Stop gotta, stop the shoulds. Do what you want. Get in tune with yourself and know what makes you smile, know what makes you feel rewarded, and that's the key here. So what is the best movement? Equals movement. And I think a really good example of this was in research. They actually studied what is realistically the number of steps the human body needs per day to register healthy movement. Okay, so in research, they actually went to the last traditional humans we have on planet Earth, who are the Maasai warrior out of Africa, so in Kenya and Tanzania. And so they followed the Maasai warrior, and they're the last traditional hunter-gatherer group that have an intact culture in the world. And so they studied it and they followed them, and they found that 15,000 steps is the amount of steps you need in a day to have movement. But yet we get bombarded with these messages that tell us it's 10,000 steps. So where do we get that from? And we got that from the marketing companies who promote Apple Watches and Garmin devices and all those sorts of things. So that's where we actually got that information from. Is that credible information? No, that was Apple trying to sell us a product, wasn't it? So this is the thing. This is why it's really hard for us to sometimes find out what is the best movement, because we've got too much messaging, and so we've got to dissect it all, and it's really hard because how do we go, well, who is the most reputable referenced resource that I have here to justify the movement I want to do? Could you see how I could get bogged down for weeks filtering information to figure out what fits me? So I think, I guess, all that jibber jabber I've just said is all about, well, what is the best movement? Just get up and move, find your thing, join a ballroom dancing class if you love it, So, but I think the thing is, we just need to start noticing how many steps we're taking every day. Just do that for an experiment. I'd love to know. And wouldn't it be great, girls, if we got into this podcast, people could record how many steps they're doing on average per day. I wonder if we could get that. How do we get that following on the bottom of this podcast, that people could say how many steps they're doing on average per day? I don't know. Can they put that in the comments? Anyway, yeah, maybe we should put that as a challenge. How many steps are you doing per day? Anyway, I digress. But the other beautiful thing that I love about movement, and something that research is really evolving on just in the last few years, is this concept of strength training. So this is where we actually lift weights as we age. So this is, I mean, if you're young and you're lifting weights now, you're ahead of the curve, and good on you, and keep doing it for the rest of your life. But if you're older and maybe lifting weights has never been something you've wanted to do, it's probably something you should consider getting into, only because it slows the age-related degeneration of the brain. So as we age, our brain sort of starts slowing down. So because it's quite a dynamic organ, and it can continually remodel itself in response to our lifestyle. So if we, as we slow down, maybe don't look after our bodies, give in to chronic disease, all that sort of stuff. Exercise is a really positive lifestyle choice that remodels the brain and stops us sort of degenerating. So this is beautiful. So in our research study, and I'll the link to the research will be up for you to see in this podcast later on. But basically, they found that once a week is insufficient, but twice a week at this stage is a good amount to do strength training. And basically, it protects your brain against age-related memory loss. So this is really important because, you know, in the world, dementia is really taking off because we are living for longer, because we have, you know, access to better health and nutrition and all of those things. We're living for longer, but unfortunately our brains are degenerating now. So how can we prevent that? And it seems strength training twice a week for a minimum of 30 minutes is what the research is telling us now. I don't know what.
I wonder why is that? What's the link? Do they discuss that in the article?
Yeah, so they talk about all the hormones, because what this is, you know, is related to is that when we move, we release a certain amount of hormones depending on the activity we're doing. And when we innovate muscle, that innovating muscle and actually going, you know, what you were talking about before, Celeste, when you said about the Pilates, how you use resistance. So you're really using muscles. And so when we engage muscles and the muscles are working harder, we release hormones into our systems. So, and things like insulin, glucagon, testosterone, human growth hormone, epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, whatever your language. All of those things are being released into our systems when we do that type of exercise. And what that does is it has a chemical effect of actually, it changes our serotonin and our dopamine uptakes in our brain. And so when we start interfering with that stuff, this is when we can actually change our brain. So we get better feelings of happiness. We get better feelings of, you know, it's called eustress, you know, so that's the homeostatic balance of stress. So when we're in a state of bliss. So, and it's all from those reactionary measures of those hormones that we are actually, we're getting movement, gets hormones on the go. Those hormones on the go have a really positive effect on our organs, particularly our brain, and we reap the rewards of that. I've simplified there, girls, and I'm hopefully.
I'm assuming the bliss part, Sue, comes after the strenuous exertion of lifting the weights.
Yes, because what happens is you lift all the weights, you do all of that, but then there is that moment where all of those chemical reactions happen in our body. And it normally comes in that sort of half-hour phase when we're in the rest phase of exercise, and you can sit and you do your breathing. And that's when you can almost feel that state of just peace in your body, where you know that your body's doing all of the work and it's doing what it was chemically built for.
Would you agree, Isabel, with your experience?
I agree, absolutely. And I agree with Sue in a lot of things, everything she said. Exercise, strength training, cardio and all of that. And it's a combination of things that can help you so much in so many different ways. And, for me, as I mentioned before, it's all about mental health, coping, with everyday life, the stresses, and having the time for myself so I can dedicate specific time for self-care. And I know the time, that I'm at the gym, doing, or, outside, going for a walk or a run or, whatever, for me is time for myself, to look after myself. And if I look after myself, then I can look after other people as well.
See, and that's another beautiful aspect. I mean, I've just focused on the health, but just that sense of self, to be in control of your body, to be the one who decides how your body works. So what happens to some people over time is they lose that control. They lose that control because of chronic disease, because they never really use we're born with this body, but and as I always talk about, and I've written many blogs about it, we don't have a user manual for our body. And unfortunately, our ability to understand our health literacy is quite low across the world. And so we don't understand how this, we really do need a simplified user manual to understand how our body works. And that's why I think these 3 sessions that we've done on nutrition, sleep, and movement are a really good foundation to help people know what they could take control of in their bodies to really decide how they eat and move, and therefore sleep. I've had so many clients who I've worked with who've come to me, wanting, for health and wellness. And so they sit there and they go, so my biggest problem is sleep, and I just can't sleep properly, and those sorts of things. And I go, well, okay, look, definitely we're going to get to that. But first of all, we have to do a bit of an analysis of everything you do every day and have a bit of a look at everything and see, what's the balance you've got going on. And so I've actually had quite a few clients now who just from creating movement experiments, we call them. So they find their movement happiness. So, and as I keep highlighting, it's different for everyone. So I've got some clients who now walk more than they've ever walked in their whole entire life. I've got some clients who have taken up swimming because they always used to love swimming when they were younger and doing laps of the pool. But as they got older, they got a bit busy. They didn't do it anymore. So they stopped doing it. Now they're back in swimming. What a meditative thing to go up and down a pool 50 times doing laps. I mean, anyway, so look, the list is endless of what you might like to experiment. And it really depends on your previous history and engagement with movement and what you've done historically, what you love, what sort of person you are. You're a really active person. Are you a really, introverted person who wants to do things by yourself and, go for a run, those sorts of things? Or are you a really extroverted person who wants to play basketball with 10 other people and yell a lot? It really is, you've got to find your happy factor there. And so I work with people a lot we do lots of experiments about exercise, and they have to reflect on the activity they're doing and really understand 3 things. They go, when they do their reflection, they ask, do I feel better? Do I feel more relaxed? And am I happier in my work and life? And if they're answering, the way yes to all of those factors, well, then it's up to them to choose whether to keep that exercise and keep moving with it, or discard, find a new one. Okay. And we keep this continual cycle of experiment going until they find their happy place. And, and I see beautiful outcomes. I've seen people who've come so sad because they're sleeping poorly. They've got that classic sleep disorder that Isabel talked about last week. And, and now, like months down the track of these new movement goals and all of that, they say, oh, I don't even have, like one of them, I said, oh, how's your sleeping going? Oh, I haven't had any trouble with sleep for months now. And you just go, isn't that fascinating? Like, because their real glitch was they'd forgotten to move, but they didn't have enough insight into themselves to see that was the glitch. And so this is what I find so fascinating about movement and why I love it so much, and why I work with clients so on just really understanding movement about their health and wellness as well. So what do you think on that, girls? Like, sorry, I know I've just been rapid talking there, but do you find the same thing with some of your clients too, that movement point?
Yeah, definitely. And I've had a couple of clients who had the expectation that, like you were talking about all the things we should be doing and what their beliefs were about what was enough exercise. And it's just finding that starting point, like what's it could be anything that gets you off the seat and moving. So we'd sort of start with a thinking goal for the first week of like, well, I'm going to think about a couple of options and, and come back with the research and, check in the next week. And then from there, it's like, well, I kind of like the sound of this and this, and it might be a kind of yoga, or it might be an app on your phone that is a movement of some kind, or Tai Chi or whatever. And then try that for a couple of days this week. And, well, what have we learned from that? And it was it just taking that burden of expectations and making it something that's fun and interesting and that you're in control of yourself is very freeing.
Yeah. And you make a really good point on that whole aspect there of, having some time to go, what would float my boat? What is the thing that I would like to do? Because you're not going to tell me to do anything. Okay, so I've got to figure this out. Oh, okay. How interesting. And so watching them just even figure that part out, is beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And also, in my experience, because I work with women that are dealing with stress, the thing is that when they start, thinking of strategies to manage stress, movement, exercise comes up, right? Movement, nutrition, sleep, right? So, and with, for movement, it's like, you can see that people do know what they need to be doing, but sometimes they just need a little bit of hand holding or a little bit of support, so they can start, coming up with their own ideas as to what's worked for them in the past and what can work, now. And yeah, movement always comes up, as a strategy to, as a coping, mechanism and strategy to support with work-related stress.
Oh, and I love that. Yeah, because you reminded me of a client. So I had a client, she was in the contemplative stage for a bit too long. And I gave her an ultimatum one week and I said, what I need you to do now is every time you're trying to think of what exercise you're going to do, you need to put your shoes and socks on, stand on your driveway and start walking down the road. And then decide, what am I going to do today? And so this one morning, I actually got a photo of her with the shoes and socks on, standing on her footpath in her driveway, because she said, well, now I've got my shoes and socks on, I'm going to go for a walk, aren't I? So it's just funny things that, people get to decide for themselves, because she was like, oh, well, now I've gone to all the trouble putting my shoes and socks on, I'm just going to move, aren't I? And I don't know, I just love it, the way my clients come up with their way of, I am poking them and pushing them to challenge them, but at the same time, they're finding their happy way with it, doing it on their terms, which then makes it a sustainable long-term change on their terms, their way, their how, and they're going to make it a life change, not just a trendy thing to do for 6 weeks because, the gym signed me up or something,
Yeah. And there's elements of self-control when you're finding that there's little hacks that you can do, like you start off with the hack of the shoes at the front gate, but then it can see, I can give myself permission to come back once I get there. Well, you really do, that it's sort of, you're still in control.
Well, you're on the way up the road now, so you might as well just keep going. And what if I walked for 5 minutes and I felt better today? Maybe I might walk 10 minutes tomorrow, and maybe that 10 minutes will turn into 30 minutes down the track. And before I know it, I'm walking most days of the week and feeling better. So isn't that interesting? And it's all about that habit change. It's all about get into a habit that you're happy with. If you can make it 1% better, and then you can get your compounded interest of your 1% better, and then in 4 months down the track, you're 20% better. Well, far out, Brussels sprout, like you have changed your world and you've made your world the way you want it on your terms. So I love it. I can get excited about it forever. But Isabel, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to say that, just putting your shoes on, that's the hardest part. Because once you get your shoes on, then there is no more to do than just go for the walk, right? Or go to the gym. So if you can just nail that first step, just putting your shoes on. And if you want to go to the gym, just, having your, clothes, whatever you use to go to the gym or do exercise ready.
Yes.
Half of the work already done.
I know, I have to do that. So my PT, I work with her quite early, a couple of times a week. So I actually have my clothes, because in winter it's dark, in summer not so much. But I always have them laid out. So if I sort of wake up going, no, I just go, no, there's my clothes right there. Okay, just get up, put them on, get going, girl. So I have that internal dialogue with myself, sometimes.
Yeah. One strategy there is just don't think about it. Just go and do it. I mean, if your routine is like getting up and then go to the gym or go out for a walk, just get up. Don't even think about it. Just put your shoes on, your clothes on, and then go out.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Eliminate all of that, thinking that, may be stopping you from doing something.
Awesome.
It's been really interesting having these last 3 episodes that we've done, covering the 3 pillars of lifestyle management and health, and how they all interrelate to each other. So, if you're not getting enough movement and eating well, it's going to translate into poor sleep. And likewise, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, you're feeling a bit less motivated to eat well and to move the next day. So they do intertwine with each other, and it's really important if we can find that balance. So we're here to help with that stuff, If you're having some trouble and you have an idea of what you'd like to change, but you're not sure where to start, or you're not sure just how to keep the accountability happening, give us a call, because we love this stuff. It's what we thrive on, and we'd love to help. So you can contact us through Messenger, through our Facebook page, or on our little links that are in the video. So thanks for everyone, and we'll catch up with you next week.